Alright, so lecture 2, this is on the bottom of module 2 for Learn Line. Alright, so using art to teach students how to think critically. So art is an essential element of teaching students how to think critically, and just make sure you have a look at that. That's on Learn Line. So that article, Creative Arts, an essential element of the teacher's toolkit when developing critical thinking in children. So certainly have a look at that article and have a read through it, particularly the introduction. It talks about, in Learn Line, how being quite biased, that's not me, that's Sharon. I don't have that much experience with art. My experience is more with PE, whereas hers is more with art. So your own experiences with art, how did your own experiences with art impact your ability to think critically? So I want to make this as, like discussional as possible. Just think about, I'll give you 30 seconds to think about how art allowed you to be able to think critically, and then I just want to be able to share your ideas, your experiences. So who had a positive experience of art in school? Yep. What was your...
music.
Yes.
Mainly classical music, but yeah. Music and just being able to use that as that one thing that if everything else was falling apart around it, was that one thing that guaranteed would get me through the day. So, yeah, so I guess that's the positive that would get me through the day.
Yeah.
Just with like visual art, I think, well, in primary school we had a look at Picasso, the one where it's like got the screen ones. Yeah, I thought he had to be crazy, to be honest, when I first saw the picture. And I didn't understand, why was someone draw something like that, it's a bit messed up. And we're learning about abstract art and how, the way you do it, it's sort of sharing the emotions, like how the artist feels. And I was just like, oh.
Yeah, so is that thinking critically in terms of thinking about how the artist feels?
Yeah.
What do you think, what were you thinking last week when we looked at that video of, I think it was this class, of the girl who was doing the art as a young child? Was that this class?
No.
No, it must be 311. There was a video, I'll try and find it then. It was like a really young girl, I think she was only about 3 or something, and she's from Melbourne, and her art was selling for like $20 million. And it was just her throwing stuff on the kind of canvas type thing, that's what it looked like. But, yeah. So what do you think about that?
I suppose it's an expression and how people feel about it. It doesn't matter who does it and where it comes from. It's how the person feels about looking at it, and they're impacted by it.
Yeah.
They enjoy looking at it and feeling, and they can see different things in it. Whereas it's a child who's just throwing, paint, but she might be doing it comes into strokes and how it all blends in and that kind of stuff, and that's why people look at it in that way, whereas kids just throwing things at. I did that with my kids at home. I put their thing up and I just got them to go. What made the difference between each age and stage is the difference between the picture that they picked.
Yeah.
With my daughter, that was the oldest, it was precise, you know, it was a blotch. Whereas my son was just like, you know, with a paintbrush.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and there's three different, and then hanging on our thing in our wall, and there's three different paintings, but the same technique.
Yeah. So is it your responsibility to say whether one's better than the other, or one's right or wrong?
No, it's the way that they interpreted what they wanted to do on their paint. Yeah, how they wanted to paint.
Yeah.
Excuse me, where is the PowerPoint in the discussion board?
The PowerPoint's in module 2, right at the very bottom.
Oh, okay, because I'm in module 2 and I can't see.
Not the discussion board.
Yeah, I'm in module 2 at the moment. That's right.
That's your presentation.
Oh, there we go, thank you.
Anyone else want to share their experiences with art? Yep.
My mother is an art teacher. My father is an artist who teaches tuition outside of education. And I grew up in an arty family. It's still incredibly arty now. And how that's helped me to think critically is in the ability to observe not only people but objects and place from an artistic point of view as well as from a personal experience with those situations.
What does that mean? So being able to observe.
Well, I can observe the room, for example, and see all the different shapes and how I would represent those both in sculpture or in painting or drawing, or if I was to go and make it into a piece of material, how I would display that, for example. Whereas other people might just walk into the room and go, oh yeah, just tables and chairs.
Yeah, like me. That's freaky, because I would never even think that. That's amazing.
But if I didn't
Exactly.
have the upbringing that I had, then I would probably just walk into the room and go, oh yeah, there's some tables and chairs.
Yeah.
So being able to think critically, I think, has definitely been assisted by my artistic upbringing.
Yeah, so you're walking into a room and thinking, how could I portray this on a canvas or wherever it might be. That's so cool.
Or see the shapes and wonder about how they are replicating nature or how they could be represented by using nature.
Yeah. You just remind me of something from my personal experience. Whenever I see lines and shapes, and I never thought that I was very artistic, but I always trace the outline with my eyes, as if it's kind of my finger. So I'll look at that desk and I'll go around and around and around and around. And even just the way that these desks are in here and how they fit together like that, but I'm always tracing shapes, like in people's faces. I'm always looking at like eyebrows, for example, and looking at shapes. Some just go like that, and some go like that, and some go like that. And like noses, particularly around here, and lips. But yeah, it just made me realise something actually. So I suppose that's like an example of thinking critically, maybe, in terms of, you know, like paying attention to facial expressions and things. And I've always thought that I've been quite good at emotional intelligence, and the testing stuff that I've done has showed that. And maybe being able to read very minute facial cues has helped with that, by having that weird kind of side. But yeah.
You might not think that you're arty in terms of you might not be able to get those things inside of you out onto paper in drawing or painting, but it doesn't mean you're not an arty person.
That's interesting, yeah. Because I suck at trying to get things on paper.
Yeah, that's me. So like in school, I always hated in art, you had to draw your plan first. Mine always looked like crap. I hate it. And then when we get to do the clay bit, I'm like, yes, mine's like the best looking thing ever, but the picture was terrible. Yeah. Even like, I love tattoos and art. I cannot draw for shit. So I'm like thinking of these great things in my head. I'm like, and my picture, no. How are people going to get what I want when I can't?
So you can appreciate art, but getting it out is a different story.
Yeah,
So you're saying that you wish you could do it. I think a lot of it just comes down to persistence and practice and learning how to apply your skills. So if you think, I can't draw, if you think I can't draw, maybe you just haven't had enough practice or enough opportunity to develop these skills.
Well, it's actually funny we're having this discussion now because out of my family, everyone's considered me to be the more artistic one, even though all I did was sketch. at most. Whereas my sisters have just been strictly looking at textbooks, and that's what they are. But my sister is maid of honour, so she's organising the hens party, and she sent a picture of these little thank you cards and these, what do you call those, crochet, it's like a flower, crochetage or something you wrap around your wrist, usually for formals.
Is it cottage?
Yeah, that's it. And she made little ones for each of the girls that are going to be going to hen night, and I was just like, oh my god, they are so awesome. Actually, I've got the picture on my phone if anyone wants to look.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah. I was just, wow.
Yeah.
But I think going back to what you were saying before, how drawing down what you wanted to make out of play first, what the teacher was trying to get you to do, and in terms of your critical thinking as a planner, so you go, okay, for my final piece, I want it to look like this, but you have to drop down those things, so you don't just
So
start
I have
to
to
do
look
it.
at everything, so I was just like, oh, I hate this part, just because I didn't think I could draw as well as the next person. But I always loved like
That initial stage where you're sketching it down is like, that's where we're going to be.
Yeah.
I hated finding the meanings of things. I could
Never find, like, you know, when they show you a picture or something and they're like, find the meaning
What's
behind
the
this
most
picture.
famous
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, it's a picture of a tree and a, you know, I never see it like,
she's never tried
as something having a meaning, I don't know.
That's interesting, and I think probably what the teacher or whoever that was trying to get across is that it's different for everybody, and so what the artist might be trying to get across might not be what you perceive as being the purpose of that piece of art.
all interpreted.
I don't know, is that right?
Like you being with the face thing, I used to hate lace curtains because I'd just see they'd start making pictures and they used to scare me as a kid. I hated it. Now it's interesting.
Oh, there's a dragon.
Something, you know, I still want to make this picture. Yeah.
Alright, so in terms of the multiple intelligences, you guys I'm sure have come across that?
Yeah, I've got my points now, so. I've written my points down
Is this for your wedding?
No, for my sister's her friend.
So there's a touch.
She's saying. Then the cards she's saying. First time she's attempted being crafty.
That's pretty good then.
Yeah.
Pinterest.
Yeah.
It's my last.
So, Howard Gardner is a man, he's 7 intelligences, visual, spatial, bodily, kinesthetic, musical, interpersonal, obviously that's you and somebody else, and intrapersonal being inside yourself, linguistic and logical mathematical. And so the theory is that everyone has a preference in terms of those 7 multiple intelligences. But consider how you can use various forms of multiple intelligences to teach other key learning areas or subject areas, curriculum areas, such as literacy and numeracy. How could you, if you were a classroom teacher and you were also the PE teacher, the art teacher, you were delivering those lessons, but you're also delivering the literacy and numeracy component as well, which you would be as a classroom teacher, how could you use art or one of those 7 multiple intelligences to teach something you're learning about? So let's say we're talking about maths and we're doing multiplication, which I think is about grade 4, and you are trying to get kids to learn maths. How could you incorporate art into being able to do that? And don't think about art in just terms of visual art, but it could also be musical, it could be acting, dancing, so using your body and so on.
So last year I did visual and spatial, and I think I did linguistic with them as well. So we were doing, and we then did like videos as well, so I guess it kind of covers various aspects of so like musical as well, because I had a song. But I was doing this we're doing basic like groups of and sharing with Year 2 students, and I'd probably say because we were using the main aspects of like visual, spatial, linguistic, musical through like videos, through using our bodies, I think the majority of them would have got it.
So what was the mathematical?
So it's groups of and sharing, which is essentially the basics of multiplication and division.
So you could like sing the times tables for musical, you could get them to physically stand in groups or use objects to do, what modelling is that?
That's pretty much what we did with them.
Yeah.
Like, we were just using blocks or using our bodies or movement to kind of, to show what we were trying to explain.
So not being confined to the common idea that maths has to be something that's visual and it's on the board and or even having counters or whatever and putting them into sections, but getting the one for kids who are more about kinesthetic learning, then getting them to get the whole, so using the whole class to put them into groups. So 3 groups of 7 is a way of demonstrating 3 times 7 is 21. Exactly. So what you're doing is thinking about how you can incorporate different intelligences for different students. So kids that learn in different ways, and those that aren't necessarily very good at, reading and writing in terms of their preferred learning style. They're more kinesthetic and more about how they feel and getting to use their body. And PE is a very, very good example of how you can do that. I know that teaching PE myself, maths teachers used to always be coming down to the basketball court to do measurement and stuff like that, and area and stuff, and PE, you can talk so much about maths when you are teaching. And when you are doing that, mate, it's really important that you do point out to students how that relates, because then maths can otherwise be very dry and it's just always adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. But then when you put into real life situations, maths is everywhere.
Like
so
cooking, making that fun for fractions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cooking is a very good example.
Actually, it's starting to help me realise how much, I have actually been impacted a little bit with sports as well. From Dad, because he's an AFL through and through, born in Victoria, and he'd talk about how AFL players are no meatheads because while they're playing, they're also strategizing and they have to understand the basics of some mathematical concepts like aerodynamics. If they kick the ball like this, is it going to reach over there? Things like that. And it's sort of, even though I didn't go into sports or anything, it made me realise that maths is in a lot of things. Like, it's not just equations you do before.
Yeah, write that down, because the purpose, so there's an underlying purpose to these lectures at this point, and they are supposed to instigate some kind of epiphany moments, and so they're going to give you ideas. So because the way we learn is we draw upon previous knowledge, and so it's very hard to learn something when you don't have any previous knowledge of it. It's possible, but it's much easier to learn something when you can apply that new knowledge to previous experiences. And so as you'll be going through, and that's why I really believe making this more conversational is so much more effective than me just standing up and talking, because then you're going to start thinking your own examples of things and your own experiences in life, and you're then going to go, hang on a second, that makes sense, and things are going to make sense to you all of a sudden. And so that's a perfect example of how what's in this, and we're just talking about, if I said to you, okay, this slide here is going to help you with your assignment, you'd be like, how? But as we talk through it, then you get those moments like that of clarity, and you go, okay, hang on a sec. I do recognise how sport has impacted me. And so to go back to the example of a football player, let's just take Eddie Betts, for example, who is a forward pocket player, so that means he plays in the forward line for those that don't know football, and kicks goals for Adelaide Crows. And his ability to be able to, so some footballers looks like they can make the ball talk in their skill that they've got. And so they're incredibly good at maths, not in the traditional sense of adding and subtracting and doing it on paper, but in terms of the calculations that are going on in the head. So say they're standing 20 metres out, they're on an angle of 45 degrees, the ball is oval shaped, so they know that they need to hold it in a certain position in order to make contact with a certain part of the ball, with a particular part of the foot, make the ball spin in a particular direction because it's going to either go straight or it's going to curve, and then they need to then apply the trigonometry to be able to get that ball to go through the goals, and also distance and depth. So how hard do you kick it? Obviously, if you kick it too hard, it's not going to go on the angle you want it to, or it's not going to spin and curve. If you kick it too soft, then it's going to not go far enough, So kicking it not only at the right distance, so it makes it the distance, but also with the right accuracy, so it goes through the goals, and at the same time the right height, so that it also doesn't get touched on the line, say for example. So you can see, you can appreciate how intelligent sports people are, who on the surface, yes, in a lot of cases do look like meatheads, but really what's going on is a very lot, and this is like calculations that are happening in a split second, and at the same time of having pressure of someone coming and trying to smash their body and put them on the ground and hurt them. So sport is incredible when you think of it like that. Anything else you want to say there about how you could use multiple intelligences across the curriculum?
With your example just there, that just reminded me of touch last week. So I know I can pass the ball one way so much stronger than the other side. I'll be running and I'm looking, yes, there's my player, and then I go to throw it and I'm like, oh, it's dropped right in front of me. What? Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to think about all these things, whilst everything that was people running at you.
Yeah. Alright, I want to show this video of Sir Ken Robinson. Have you guys heard of him before?
I love him. I love watching things by him.
Yeah, he is awesome. There's another one, it's not the one that's my favourite video. My favourite video is of like a cartoon thing that someone else does called RSA, I think it's called. But this one's still good nonetheless. So I'm going to keep the recording going so that you can continue just to watch the video and not have to go back and watch it later. But for anyone who is watching the recording now, you can fast forward it if you've already watched it or you want to watch it at a later date. I'm saying that for the...
Yeah.
So this goes for about 20 minutes, so we'll go to a break after this.
Morning. How are you? It's been great, hasn't it? I've been blown away by the whole thing. In fact, I'm leaving. There have been three themes, haven't there, running through the conference, which are relevant to what I want to talk about. One is the extraordinary evidence of human creativity in all of the presentations that we've had and in all the people here. Just a variety of it, a range of it. The second is that it's put us in a place where we have no idea what's going to happen in terms of the future. No idea how this may play out. I have an interest in education. Actually, what I find is everybody has an interest in education. Don't you? I find it's very interesting. You could do at a dinner party and you say you work in education. Actually, you're not often at dinner parties. If you work in education, you're not asked, and you'll never ask back, curiously. That's interesting. But if you are, and you say to somebody, what do you do? And you say you work in education, you can see the blood run from their face. Oh my God, why me? It's my one night out all week. But if you ask about their education, they can use them all. Because it's one of those things that goes deep with people. Am I right? Like religion and money.
I just want to point out, so I was in a PD one day and this guy came in who was all about high performance in management and stuff like that. And he said, if you were to say to someone you're in charge of 40 to 50 employees, they'd go, oh wow, where do you work? Whereas if you were to say, I'm the principal of a school, people go, oh, is that all? Kind of thing. So what he was getting at was like if you're a principal, say, oh, I've got 40 employees under me and then our key stakeholders are about 500, you know, and obviously he's talking about staff and students and how different perspectives on that.
So, I have a really interest in education, and I think we all do. We have a huge vested interest in it, partly because it's education that's meant to take us into this future that we can't grasp. If you think of it, children starting school this year will be retiring in 2065. Nobody has a clue, despite all the expertise that's been on parade for the past 4 days, what the world will look like in 5 years' time. And yet we're meant to be educating for it. So the unpredictability, I think, is extraordinary. And the third part of this is that we've all agreed, nonetheless, on the really extraordinary capacities that children have, their capacities for innovation. I mean, Sabina last night was a marvel, wasn't she, just seeing what she could do. And she's exceptional, but I think she's not, so to speak, exceptional in the whole of childhood. What you have there is a person with extraordinary dedication found a talent. And my contention is all kids have tremendous talents, and we squander them pretty ruthlessly. So I want to talk about education, and I want to talk about creativity. My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status. Thank you. That was it. Thank you very much. So, 15 minutes left. Well, I was born. No, I had a great story recently. I love telling it. Of a little girl who was in a drawing lesson. She was 6 and she was at the back drawing. And the teacher said, this little girl hardly ever paid attention. And in this drawing lesson, she did. And the teacher was fascinated. She went over to her and she said, what are you drawing? And the girl said, I'm drawing a picture of God. And the teacher said, but nobody knows what God looks like. And the girl said, they will in a minute. When my son was 4 in England, actually he was 4 everywhere to be honest, we're very strict about it, wherever he went he was 4, yeah, but he was in the nativity play. Do you remember the story? No, it's a true story. Mel Gibson did the sequel, you may have seen it, Nativity 2. But James got the part of Joseph, which we were thrilled about. We consider this to be one of the lead parts. He had the place crammed full of agents and t-shirts, you know, James Robinson is Joseph. He didn't have to speak, but you know when the 3 kings come in? Now they come in bearing gifts, and they bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This really happened. We're sitting there, and they, I think, just went out of sequence. Because we talked a little boy out and said, you know, are you okay with that? And they said, yeah, why was that wrong? They just switched, and that was it. Anyway, the 3 boys came in, little 4-year-olds with tea towels and theirs, and they put these boxes down. The first boy said, I bring you gold. And the second boy said, I bring you myrrh. And the third boy said, Frank sent this. What these things have in common is that kids will take a chance. You know, if they don't know, they'll have a go. Alright, they're not frightened of being wrong. Now, I don't mean to say that being wrong is the same thing as being creative. What we do know is that if you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. If you're not prepared to be wrong. And by the time they get to be adults, most kids have lost that capacity. They have become frightened of being wrong. And we run our companies this, by the way, we stigmatize mistakes. And we're now running national education systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make. And the result is that we are educating people out of their creative capacities. Picasso once said this. He said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. I believe this passionately. We don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it. So why is this? I lived in Stratford-on-Avon until about 5 years ago. In fact, we moved from Stratford to Los Angeles. So you can imagine what a seamless transition, this was. Actually, we lived in a place called Smithfield, just outside Stratford, which is where Shakespeare's father was born. Are you struck by a new thought? I was. You don't think of Shakespeare having a father, do you? Do you? But you don't think of Shakespeare being a child? Do you? Shakespeare being 7? I never thought of it. I mean, he was 7 or something. He was in somebody's English class, wasn't he? Just how long would that be? Must try harder. Being sent to bed by us now, to Shakespeare, go to bed now, to William Shakespeare, and put the pencil down. And stop speaking then. It's confusing everybody. Anyway, we moved from Stratford to Los Angeles, and I just want to say a word about the transition. Actually, my son didn't want to come. I've got 2 kids. He's 21 now, and the daughter's 16. He didn't want to come to Los Angeles. He loved it, but he had a girlfriend in England. This was the love of his life, Sarah. He'd known her for a month. Imagine they had their 4th anniversary. Because it's a long time, he's 16. Anyway, he was ready to set on the plane. He said, I'll never find another girl like Sarah. And we were rather pleased about that, frankly. She was the main reason we were leaving the country. But something strikes you when you move to America and when you travel around the world. Every education system on earth has the same hierarchy of subjects. Everyone, doesn't matter where you go, you think it would be otherwise, but it isn't. At the top are mathematics and languages, then the humanities, and the bottom are the arts, everywhere on earth. And in pretty much every system too, there's a hierarchy within the arts. Art and music are normally given a higher status in schools than drama and dance. There isn't an education system on the planet that teaches dance every day to children the way we teach them mathematics. Why? Why not? I think this is rather important. I think maths is very important, but so is dance. Children dance all the time if they like to. We all do. We all have bodies, don't we? Did I miss anything? Truthfully, what happens is, as children grow up, we start to educate them progressively from the waist up. And then we focus on their heads, and slightly to one side. If you were to visit education as an alien and say, what's it for? Public education. I think you'd have to conclude, if you look at the output, who really succeeds by this, who does anything they should? Who gets all the brownie points? Who are the winners? I think you'd have to conclude the whole purpose of public education throughout the world is to produce university professors. Isn't it? They're the people who come out on top. Now, I used to be one. So there. But, and I like university professors, but we shouldn't handle them as the high watermark of all human achievement. They're just a form of life. Another form of life. But they're rather curious, and I say this out of affection for them. There's something curious about professors. In my experience, not all of them, but typically, they live in their heads. They live up there, and slightly to one side. They're disembodied, in a kind of literal way. They look upon their body as a form of transport for their heads. It's... Okay. It's like getting their head to meetings. If you want real evidence of out-of-body experiences, by the way, get yourself along to a residential conference of senior academics and pop into the discotheque on the final night. And there you'll see it, grown men and women driving uncontrollably off the beat. Waiting to end so they can go home and write a paper about it. Our education system is predicated on the idea of academic ability. And there's a reason. The whole system was invented around the world. There were no public systems of education ready before the 19th century. They all came into being to meet the needs of industrialism. So the hierarchy is rooted on two ideas. Number one, that the most useful subjects for work are at the top. So you were probably steered benignly away from things in school when you were a kid, things you liked, on the grounds you would never get a job doing that. Is that right? Don't do music, you're not going to be a musician. Don't do art, you won't be an artist. Benign advice, now profoundly mistaken. The whole world is engulfed in a revolution. And the second is academic ability, which has really come to dominate our view of intelligence because the universities designed the system in their image. If you think that the whole system of public education around the world is a protracted process of university entrance. And the consequence is that many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not. Because the thing they were good at school wasn't valued or was actually stigmatized. And I think we can't afford to go on that way. In the next 30 years, according to UNESCO, more people worldwide will be graduating through education than since the beginning of history. More people. And it's the combination of all the things we've talked about, technology and its transformational effect on work, and demography and the huge explosion in population. Suddenly, degrees aren't worth anything. Isn't that true? When I was a student, if you had a degree, you had a job. If you didn't have a job, it's because you didn't want one. And I didn't want one, frankly. But now, kids with degrees are often heading home to carry on playing video games. Because you need an MA, where the previous job required a BA, and now you need a PhD for the other. It's a process of academic innovation. And it indicates the whole structure of education is shifting beneath our feet. We need to radically rethink our view of intelligence. We know three things about intelligence. One, it's diverse. We think about the world in all the ways that we experience it. We think visually, we think in sound, we think in aesthetically, we think in abstract terms, we think in movement. Secondly, intelligence is dynamic. If you look at the interactions of the human brain, as we heard yesterday from a number of presentations, intelligence is wonderfully interactive. The brain isn't divided into compartments. In fact, creativity, which I define as the process of having original ideas that have value, more often than not, comes about through the interaction of different disciplinary ways of seeing things. The brain is intensive. By the way, there's a shaft of nerves that joins the parts of the brain called the corpus callosum, extended in women. Following on from Helen, I think this is probably why women are better at multitasking. Because you are. Aren't you? There's a raft of research, but I know from my personal life. If my wife is cooking a meal at home, which is not often, thankfully, but she's good at something. But if she's cooking, she's dealing with people on the phone, she's talking to the kids, she's painting the ceiling, she's doing open heart surgery. If I'm cooking, the door is shut, the kids are out, the phone's on the hook. If she comes in, I get annoyed. I say, Terry, please, I'm trying to fry an egg again. Give me a break. Actually, there was that old philosophical thing, if a tree falls in a forest and nobody hears it, did it happen? Remember that old chestnut? I saw a great t-shirt really recently that said, if a man speaks his mind in the forest and no woman hears him, is he still wrong? And the third thing about intelligence is it's distinct. I'm doing a new book at the moment called Epiphany, which is based on a series of interviews with people about how they discover their talent. I'm fascinated by how people got to be there. It's really prompted by a conversation I had with a wonderful woman who most people have never heard of. She's called Gillian Lee. Have you heard of her? Somehow. She's a choreographer and everybody knows her work. She did Cats and Phantom of the Opera. She's wonderful. I used to be on the board of the Royal Ballet in England, as you can see. And anyway, during that, I had looked at her. I said, "How'd you ever be a dancer?" And she said it was interesting. When she was at school, she was really hopeless. And the school in the 30s wrote to her parents and said, "We think Jillian has a learning disorder." You couldn't concentrate, she was fidgeting. I think now they'd say she had ADHD. Wouldn't you? But this was the 1930s and ADHD hadn't been invented, at this point, so it wasn't an available condition, people weren't aware they could have that. Anyway, she went to see this specialist So this oak panel room, and she was there with her mother, and she was led and sat on this chair at the end, and she sat on her hands for 20 minutes while this man talked to her mother about all the problems Jimmy was having at school. And at the end of it, because she was disturbing people, their homework was always late and so on, in the end, the doctor went and sat next to Jimmy and said, Jimmy, I've listened to all these things your mother's told me, I need to speak to her privately. So he said, wait here, we'll be back, it won't be very long, and they went to her. But as they went out of the room, he turned on the radio that was sitting on his desk. And when they got out of the room, he said to them, just stand and watch her. And the minute they left the room, she said she was on her feet, moving to the music. And they watched a few minutes, and he turned to her mother, and he said, Mrs. Lynn, Jimmy isn't sick, she's a dancer. Take her to a dance school. I said, what happened? He said, she did. I can't tell you how wonderful it was. We walked in this room, and it was full of people like me. People who couldn't sit still. People who had to move to think. Who had to move to think. They did ballet, they did tap, they did jazz, they did modern, they did contemporary. She was eventually auditioned for the Royal Ballet School. She became a soloist, she had a wonderful career at the Royal Ballet. She eventually graduated from the Royal Ballet School, found that her own company, the Gillian Dance Company, met Andrew Lloyd Webber. She's been responsible for some of the most successful musical theatre productions in history. She's given pleasure to millions, and she's a multi-millionaire. Somebody else might have put her on medication and told her to calm down. Now, I think what I think comes to this, Al Gore spoke the other night about ecology and the revolution that was triggered by Rachel Carson. I believe our only hope for the future is to adopt a new conception of human ecology, one in which we start to reconstitute our conception of the richness of human capacity. Our education system has mined our minds in the way that we strip mine the earth for a particular commodity, and for the future it won't serve us. We have to rethink the fundamental principles on which we're educating our children. There was a wonderful quote by Jonas Salk who said, if all the insects were to disappear from the earth, within 50 years, all life on Earth would end. If all human beings disappeared from the Earth, within 50 years, all forms of life would flourish. And he's right. What TED celebrates is the gift of the human imagination. We have to be careful now that we use this gift wisely and that we avert some of the scenarios that we've talked about. And the only way we'll do it is by seeing our creative capacities for the richness they are, and seeing our children for the hope that they are. And our task is to educate their whole being so they can face this future. By the way, we may not see this future, but they will. And our job is to help them make something of it. Thank you very much.
Alright, I just really seriously felt like that was so valuable to show. I know you could have watched it in your own time outside, but it will set up the rest of what we're going to talk about, and I just wanted to make sure you saw it because it's so valuable. And while we're going to go to a break now, but while we do, has anyone done his paperclip activity or heard of it?
Is that the one where you try
Don't
to
tell anyone. Oh yeah. You think of like uses of paperclip? Yeah, okay. So we'll have a 10 or so minute break, and in that time, so we'll come back at 15:15, have a think about how many uses you can think of for a paperclip. And I'll talk about something that he's talked about in another video, which, did you see it in the video? Or you see it somewhere else?
I think I've seen that one, yes.
Yeah. Alright. Cool. Alright, come up with those uses and we'll be back at 15:15.